How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Weather Sponge 5000, and in this video, we're gonna talk about the Atlantic hurricane season and determine if any tropical waves this week and in the more long-term future could develop into Tropical Storm Danielle. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content, and make sure if you like this video as well. But now let's begin by taking a look at the GFS computer model for the entire northern Atlantic, and it's obvious it's been quiet over the past several weeks. However, we do have some tropical disturbances that we're at least keeping an eye on. We do have this tropical wave coming off the African coast right now, where we do have a low pressure system further northward and another surface low that's just south of the Cape Verde Islands. However, it seems like neither of the two main computer models, the GFS or the European model, are expecting those tropical waves to develop, because if I were to continue to move forward, while the moisture will still exist in the main development region, you see that there isn't enough convection for a strong enough low pressure system to develop to have the potential of developing into Tropical Storm Danielle. And the primary culprit of it is the amount of dry air that's just to the north of it, just a loss of hair and dust. For now, however, could this develop heading further westward? So there might be that possibility that if this moisture is able to escape this Saharan dust layer and the stable air that's just to the north of it, then maybe it could have a shot of redeveloping or developing for the first time in the Gulf of Mexico. So if I were to continue to move forward, we see that this piece of moisture right here, while there isn't a well-defined low pressure system, we still see that moisture continue to move westward. And while the GFS model expects it to fizzle out, we still do see a decent amount of convection going on right around the Gulf of Mexico. And another thing I want to point out to you guys is that if we were to take a look at the southwestern portion of the Caribbean, we also see just a high amount of convection over there, right over Central America, which is part of the reason why the winter season is the summer for a lot of the northern hemisphere for the Central American region, because it rains so much that it keeps the temperatures fairly cool for the summer months in the northern hemisphere. But we are seeing quite a strong gyre right now throughout Central America, and could we see potentially a tropical storm Danielle develop out of this high amount of convection we're seeing along the coast? As of right now, the GFS model is not forecasting any sort of really well-defined low pressure system to develop that has the possibility of developing into Tropical Storm Danielle. However, we do see at least some low pressure systems develop off the Central American coast, just not strong enough for it to really have that high potential. And part of the reason is due to the amount of wind shear it's going to deal with right around the southwestern Caribbean, as well as the amount of land interaction that could easily change over the next several days, because look at how far out I'm going beyond the 7-day mark, where the forecast does become fairly uncertain at around that time. But if I were to show you the wind shear map, you clearly see that there's a pretty strong upper level high just to the north of it that's bringing fairly strong wind shear right around between the mid levels and the upper levels of the atmosphere, where we're seeing the reds, which represents 40 to 50 knot upper level winds, which shows that there's a strong amount of wind shear, especially since that the upper level winds are going the opposite direction as the surface winds, which creates a highly sheared environment for any sort of convection to develop under these conditions. However, if I were to continue to move forward, there might be that possibility that we do see an upper level high build very far out in the future into Central America, but it needs to be very close to the coast to avoid this wind shear that this upper level high is producing. So, but still a lot of uncertainty regarding that upper level high, because maybe it could create a lightly sheared environment right around southwestern Caribbean for a tropical storm to develop. But we need to see the GFS model lean more towards that forecast over the next several runs, because we're still very far out from really experiencing that upper level high from moving into the Caribbean. So we're just going to need to wait and see. But the high wind shear is preventing a lot of this convection coming off of South America from developing into tropical storm, and also also the land interaction. A lot of this convection is dealing with a lot of land interaction as well, where there's a high amount of friction as a result of the higher elevations of the Central American mountains. So as a result, it's having a difficult time of developing well-defined center of circulation. But so we're gonna need to see this low pressure system develop a little bit off of Central America, a little bit further out to sea, to really see if this will have a chance of developing into. If we will see a low pressure system develop into Tropical Storm Danielle. The convection is there, just not the wind shear and just the its location, where it's going to deal with a lot of land interaction. So it's going to have the GFS model is forecasting a difficult time for any sort of convection to develop just off Central America, but we're still going to need to pay close attention to that. And in terms of the main developed region, we're going to see a continuous stream of moisture come off of the West African coast, but it's going to deal with a different problem, which is the amount of stable air. Look how much stable air there is and dry air there is over the main developed region, where we do see a very thick Saharan dust layer dominating the main developed region, which is preventing tropical cyclones for now in the main developed region, where the dry air is just too much for a lot of this moisture to handle. However, if we were to potentially move forward, we could potentially see that dry air diminish. I do expect that to happen eventually. So in the main developed region, it seems like it's going to be tough it's going to be tough for Tropical Storm Danielle to develop in the main developed region. However, maybe there's that possibility that we could see a little bit more convection around the Gulf of Mexico for any sort of low pressure systems that come off the West African coast to develop further westward, where it'll avoid the Saharan dust layer for the most part. But we're just going to need to wait and see. Still a high amount of uncertainty. If I were to continue to move forward, we do see that while some moisture does eventually reach the Gulf of Mexico, there's still going to be a decent amount of dry air, and we're going to need to wait and see how much wind shear there will be in the Gulf of Mexico, because there's still a lot of questions regarding that. But if a tropical cyclone were to develop, it'll be somewhere between the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, because that's where the air is a little bit less stable, and that's where the conditions at this point are most favorable for tropical cyclone development, because that's certainly not the case right now in the main developed region. So we're just going to need to wait and see. The European model also agrees with this, not really developing anything, but if anything does develop, it'll most likely be somewhere in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico in the very near future. So I'll keep you guys updated regarding any forecast changes. Now, in terms of what the ensemble members are saying, we do see that some low pressure systems develop just off of Central America, none of them developing into a tropical storm. However, we do see some ensemble members between now and 240 hours from now develop a low pressure system that could be considered a tropical storm. But however, it's only two ensemble members, so there isn't really a high amount of confidence with this forecast, especially since we're going 240 hours out. But just be aware of the fact that we could see multiple low pressure systems develop right around the southwestern Caribbean. So we're just going to need to pay close attention to that. And in terms of the other computer model, you see that the ensemble members for the ECENS model are quiet as well. So at this point, it seems like confidence is low that we're going to see a tropical cyclone, but we just have to wait and see how conditions will play out in the Gulf of Mexico to really determine if this moisture we're seeing in the main developed region could develop in the Gulf of Mexico. So make sure to keep that in mind. Now, to show you guys my forecast when it comes to where Tropical Storm Danielle could potentially develop. So, like I said, we do have this tropical wave, but it's pretty much guaranteed that it won't develop in the main developed region under by how much dry air it's under. Most likely, if a tropical wave were to develop, it'll develop somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. So we're going to need to pay close attention to how the conditions will play out in that area, because I do believe that the air will be humid enough for tropical cyclone development. It really all depends on the amount of wind shear and land interaction it's going to deal with. So we're just going to have to wait and see how the computer models will change their forecast over the next several days. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content, and I hope you guys all have a great day.